is a place I'm welcomed in. It's the mountains high, spread across a valley, green and wide. As morning filters through the trees, baking in the day, reveals the canyon's magic deep inside. The sleepy sunrise brings the joy inside.
Once my grandparents passed away, things radically changed here. The vitality of the ranch just wasn't there. I believe my grandmother was the one that kept it vital and moving, and both my grandparents actually. We ran the cattle in San Ynez Canyon. They cut the wood here on the slope and took it to Chinatown to sell. They had many friends, and they had their annual barbecues, and they interacted with with the few neighbors that were in the canyon at the time. My dad was very much into making do with what he had, and actually this house was moved from another location that he had sold, and he moved it up here piecemeal in 1941. My recollection, of course, is from the 30s, 40s, when we had the whole ranch in one piece, which he started dividing in 1935. If you know your history, President Lincoln signed the Railroad Act in May of 1862, and was it the Homestead Act signed in October and November of that year? And all the land, which was assumed to be government land, and you filed on a piece of land that you thought you liked, and you had 5 years to prove. You had to have so much done by the third year, and then at the end of 5, and so on.
When we were small, the summer times were always really hectic around here. We called it Grand Central Station, because every morning the phone would ring off the hook of who was checking in and what we were doing. And as we got older and got our licenses, we were running around driving dune buggies up here, trying them out.
Motorcycles.
Yeah, that too. And then eventually we got into race cars. So basically my husband and I did. But the biggest thing was, let's go up to the Wileys and see what they're doing.
Stewart's Pool was a great gathering place on the weekends, which is Camp Wildwood by the lumberyard. I mean, pity the kid who didn't go to Stewart's Pool in the Saturday and Sunday.
Well, yeah, you had to have your quarter. Have 25 cents to get in.
To get into the pool?
For all day, yeah.
We used to have monthly dances, or every 2 months they'd have a dance at the American Legion. I mean, everybody would go.
We all used to go to the same elementary schools, so everybody knew everybody else. If you were a kid, you couldn't get away with murder, because by then some mom would already call up the other mom, "Hey, do you know what your kid did to my kid?"
All right.
And we'd never hear the end of it. And plus, in those days, divorce wasn't as rapid as it is today. I mean, parents put more of an effort to work things out than what they do today.
I think it changed the thinking of the whole world, actually. Things haven't been the same since.
It's because the economy changed to where suddenly the parents were finding themselves having to get 2 jobs. They each had to work a second job.
Mother went to work.
So who has time to do scouting or do a social event or even be part of the PTA?
There was a time of sit-ins and riots and all kinds of crazy stuff. And a lot of those people landed here, and there was an influx of drugs that hadn't been seen before.
That's what really made it bad. I mean, especially in my high school years, I lost what I thought were friends, but as soon as their parents found out that I was living in the canyon, "Oh, she's a druggie, you can't be her friend." I wasn't the only one that was kind of ostracized. There was a lot of kids that went to school in the valley or different schools that, I mean, as soon as their parents found out that they lived up here, "Oh, you must be part of the hippie movement, so you're in the drugs, so my kids can't associate with you."
That's when we had the Charlie Manson. He was our most famous hippie. Lou Gossett, who has since become a very responsible, sensible actor. Governor Jerry Brown. Patty Davis.
We had gypsy boots.
What was the name of that little guy that just died about a year or so ago? He was a good friend of Gypsy Boots.
Oh, Jack LaLanne.
Jack LaLanne.
He was a nice little guy. That guy could play golf like you wouldn't believe. Barry McGuire used to be our neighbor up above.
Yeah, he lived here.
The Christie Minstrels.
There were many musicians that lived here in the canyon at that time. Neil Young.
He had Bob Denver and his family, from Gilligan's Island.
It was, shall we say, a very interesting era if you were a historian. During the 80s, that's when the price of housing went really nuts up here, and in Malibu. The aircraft industry was big. Everybody worked at Douglas, North American,
Hughes.
Lockheed, Hughes.
Aerospace.
It was all, big aerospace employment until that went out.
But Hughes was the one that was really caving in, especially when GM came in and bought them out. I mean, when they were offering the golden handshake, I literally saw history walk out the door. I saw the inventors of the rocket fuel, the rockets, the wiring, the circuitry, everything. It was just really something to see.
He and his wife and son were heading home, which is 50 miles. And somewhere along the line, this motorcycle cop, CHP cop, started chasing this drunk driver in a big Chevy pickup. And the guy started driving on the shoulder of the highway, Highway 41, which goes from Fresno into Yosemite. Somewhere around the Friant Dam cutoff, there's a bridge there, he ran out of shoulder. So he swerved in and hit my son's car on the right side, threw it against a truck that was coming down the hill. That driver was killed instantly. And our son lasted, 5 hours?
I think about 4.5 when I got the phone call from the surgeon.
The lack of employment for young people.
And that's why I don't live up here.
One of the things that is sad here in the canyon, the kids don't stay. Darn few of them stayed before, but now I don't think any of them stay. The thing is that the wages have not kept up with the so-called standard of living. You can't live in Topanga on $8.75 an hour.
I think the biggest thing that was the evolution was the Strawberry Festival.
Which is now Topanga Days.
But they started off with, like food booths, and then gradually arts and craft booths.
Now they have a professional event coordinator put on Topanga Days. It's not homegrown anymore.
Yeah, it started off being nothing but just the women's club.
The Historical Society used to have a booth. I don't think they've had a booth in the last 3 or 4 years.
There never used to be light signals.
Yes, the light signals. With the traffic that we have, yes, we should have some sort of traffic control on this road. Every time anything is coming into the canyon, there's a big fat hassle. Even the library. I remember these 2 young ladies who were very adamant, and they would come into the historical library and talk about getting a library here in the canyon. I've been in little towns of 150 to 180 population in the Midwest, and they have a library. Why couldn't we have one here? It took us long enough to get it.
I think libraries are a true treasure, though, of the towns.
I think they're a definite asset to any community. I admire the two young ladies that went in there and, hung in. I think they did a good job.
Got the sunlight in my pocket, got the wind around my hair, like a picture in a locket, jeweled a memory to share. got the twilight falling on me. Through Topanga sycamore, as the road leans up to meet me. Afternoon closes the door. Ever blessed to be here, living close to nature's core. Meadows melted into moonlight, I could never want for more. And I could never leave here, even death knows no demise. For heaven's captured in Topanga, this wondrous place, a paradise. This wondrous place, my paradise.